Well, we're going to continue our series on how-to. Today's how-to is how to tap into inspiration as a fictional writer. And I want to talk from my own experience, and I hope that my experience, this dreaded lurgy still got me, helps you in your writing, and perhaps you've never written, and I want to inspire you to perhaps consider to try. You don't know what you're capable of until you have a go. So here's some things. First, I want to start with a quote. I wonder if you've heard this quote. More interesting, I wonder if you know where the quote comes from. It says, "We do not drink from wells we did not dig." Which, when you think about it, it's quite deep. Which means there's things in the well and the stuff at the depth of you as a person, which is the sum total of others' inputs, other experiences. And in my view, we'll talk about a little bit later on, much of inspiration and much of being any good at being a writer is to do with gift. And if you're not a gifted writer, probably, you could still write, of course, everybody can write, but you're just not a gifted writer. And it's the gifted writers that generally become the cream of the crop, and the cream generally grows or comes to the top eventually. Sometimes it takes a long while, and in the past we know posthumously for some. They weren't recognised. But eventually we'll come to the top, and particularly in the ebook world, because an ebook is forever, which gives it a long time to come to the top. As an aside. Okay, so I want to talk about the uniqueness of your personality. There's never been anybody like you in all of history. Never will there be anybody like you all of time in the future. You are unique, and your set of experiences are unique, and you live in a unique period of time to you. And you probably have lived in a unique area, and if you've been lucky, you've been able to travel and experience things a broad spectrum. And who you are, and the sum total of all of that which is in your well, some of it which you didn't dig, is I want to put it this way, it can flavour your inspiration as a writer. I admire the works of others, and I admire the gifts of others. When it comes to the ability to be a gifted singer, I admire Barbra Streisand. She can sing one note 30 different ways. But the fact of the matter is, most of what she delivers she had before she was ever given any training. Training can embellish and enhance, but the innate gift must be there to start with. But I don't think I'd be very much enthused or don't think I'd get excited about being invited to a concert to watch like a stand-in Elvis Presley, a stand-in Barbra Streisand just wouldn't work, because it's the uniqueness of her gift that inspires me when I'm listening to her style and genre of music. So I'm going to say, don't despise the uniqueness of your flavour, the flavour that you have, and there is no substitute for your gift which is unique. You can emulate others, you can definitely don't copy anybody else. You can have mentors that you want to follow, but don't get so stuck with, I will do it that way, because then your flavour can't colour your inspiration. So seed ideas, they come from the well, and they come at the strangest of times and places. When you see me look away from the camera, it's to my notes. I like to stay on track and keep what I'm saying as content rich as I can within the time I speak. So I am using this analogy that the ideas are like a seed, and they are, because they start small, and from small they grow. And it's a strange phenomenon. I think you need to treat the ideas when they come like precious potential. I think the analogy is even used in the Bible that a mustard seed is one of the very smallest seeds which turns into the biggest tree. Don't look at the original seed idea as the most precious thing. It is a precious thing and it needs to be nursed like a baby. But it's the potential of the seed idea that should get you excited. And you need to nurse the seed idea, in my view, by thinking. Now, I don't know if you've heard the quote, but it says that genuine, deep thinking from the soul, not cerebral thinking. There's a short distance between the head and the heart, but deep thinking from the heart, the center of your personality, is the hardest work you'll ever do. And I noticed that this thinking doesn't happen by turning it on and turning it off. It's not something that you can bottle. It's like a butterfly. It flits in and it flits out. And there are time gaps between when you have an idea, and it's a mystery to me how it works, and see it grow to its full potential. Now, I keep using in these videos the book that I've recently launched, which is going very well, Dream Bouncing. And the reason I use that is Dream Bouncing has gone through all the facets that I'm talking about, including the one that I'm talking about today, inspiration. The original idea for Dream Bouncing, funny enough, came in a dream. And I suggest you should always keep a pen and paper handy. In fact, the other day I got an idea and I had to repeat the idea over and over and over and over as I drove the last 2 kilometres home because it wasn't suitable to stop for the piece of paper and the pen. But if you don't write them down, they will be gone. There's no saying, oh, well, I'll remember that later on. When you come to remember it later on, it's gone. And I've lost some absolute fabulous seed ideas like that, and I've learned my lesson. So in the case of Dream Bouncing, I had to immediately write down the seed idea as I was waking. Now, I don't get many ideas from that period of waking, but many people report that some of their best ideas are in the process of waking from sleep. Dream Bouncing in its first form was 10,000 words, a short story. It was printed 6 days in a row as a periodical in a newspaper. Excuse me. Then 6 months went by and I didn't like the ending, and all of a sudden I had a seed idea. It was while I was just walking down the road, the most inopportune time to have a pen and a piece of paper to write it down. But I ducked into a bakery, I grabbed the pen, wrote the idea down, I think on my forearm, and then went home and did the deep thinking about that idea. How could that idea develop? Because I realized it didn't have to stop where it stopped, and if I continued what became part 2, it could be better. And there was, I think it was 6 months gap between when I finished the first version and started on part 2. And then, because I'm a storyteller and I use a co-writer because I'm dyslexic, Jenny Sweeney sounded off some ideas which spawned some new ideas. And that's the funny thing about ideas. Ideas seem to reproduce after their own kind. And having somebody as a soundboard as you're working through your ideas and growing and developing them is very, very worthwhile. So for me, and I noticed some other authors that I know, some of the best ideas you get are while you're actually writing. And that's because when you're writing, you're visually thinking about what the situation is that you're trying to describe, or you feel the story is. And for me, I see my novels, my fiction novels, primarily in movie form, and then write them down in my head. So it's whilst you're actually seeing the scene and smelling the roses and hearing the noises and seeing the interrelationship between what's going on at that particular time, and then another seed idea comes. It happens at the deepest of concentration of while you're writing, and I've learned that you must stop and write that seed idea down and then go back to, we often talk about being in the zone, where you can be writing for 4 or 5 hours and not realise you've been anywhere 4 or 5 hours, you've been somewhere else, in the inspiration, if you would. But when you get the new one, they're so hard to get and they're so elusive that if you don't stop and capture it, write it down, you'll lose it. So they are very interesting phenomenons, are the seed ideas. Let's go back to my notes here to stay on track. I wanted to perhaps just finish this video by asking a question: what is inspiration? I wonder if you can answer that, thinking there as I'm talking. I believe that the phenomenon of inspiration is a gift, and it's the storyteller's gift. Not everybody has it, not everybody can tap into it, but if you have the gift, you should write, and I'm encouraging you to write. To have a look at writing, which is graded through 1 to 10 in children's stories and my shelf of books, and to listen to the free audio first 100 pages narrated by my good friend Aileen in her lovely Scottish accent, which isn't too broad because she's lived in Australia for quite a while, you can get an idea of the sequences as seed is built upon seed, which spawns seed, which builds a seed. I don't want to actually tell you anything of the plot and how the seeds came until you've read it. But if you wanted to try before you buy, download the MP3, either one file or all 5 of them. You can get to page 100 out of 300 by listening to it in that form, to prove that you like that particular story before you spend the price of a cup of coffee for 8 to 10 hours entertainment. So from Graded Ronald Sharp and gradedreading.com, cheers for this particular video.